I didn't like myself. I didn't like what I'd become. I didn't like where I had been. And I came to the realization that if something was going to change, it had to begin with me. At 17 years old, I was sent to prison, and I got out when I was 23. I didn't have a lot of options or opportunities, so I ended up going back to prison 11 times. Employment was very limited for me. A lot of these jobs that I was applying for, I was definitely qualified, but because of my criminal history and my background, I was getting denied, and that became very discouraging. And for somebody that struggled with discouragement their whole life, that's dangerous.
In Utah, 50% of our children, one of their parents have a criminal record. And people want to support their families. They want to break those generational cycles of poverty, and they can't do that if they can't go back to work. What we do here at Clean Slate Utah is we help people determine if they're going to be eligible for the Clean Slate law. And then if they're not eligible and they need to go through the court-based process or get a pardon, we also offer that support. I think partnerships are huge, especially in this field. Like our partnership with Representative Dunnigan, he sees people as humans, and that's what we need, especially up on the Hill.
I support Clean Slate completely because they're trying to help people improve their lives. Clean Slate cuts loose the baggage, helps them expunge their records, and helps them move forward.
USARA is very fortunate that we partner with Clean Slate on doing fingerprint clinics and having people from the public come in to our Recovery Community Center. They come in to meet with the Clean Slate staff to talk about what they can do in order to start this process to expunge their records.
With Clean Slate, when I asked for help, just knowing someone there's to coach me along, they're gonna understand the language and I'm not gonna feel less than by asking those questions. And so just having other people that go through things to help you is life-changing.
If we can help people get on a better path, I love it because crime will diminish for those that we can help successfully, and they'll be taxpayers and they can start paying into the system instead of drawing down from the system.
It is our duty to allow those people the opportunities to change their lives. It's good for our economy, it's good for our public safety, it's good for our communities, it's good for our families, it's good for everybody.
From 16 years old until now, I've felt more comfortable in prison because that was the label that was put on me. But what Clean Slate has done is helped me to break that barrier, is helped me to liberate myself from those labels.
Our children, they're stigmatized based off our actions, but that doesn't have to happen anymore because we no longer are felons. We get this opportunity to be involved in their school, to break the stigma, to break the chain, and I get the opportunity to show them a different way.
It's very important for me to give back. I get the opportunity to speak to kids that went through the juvenile justice system like I did, or through a foster system like I did, and let them know that there is hope. Maybe my story, maybe what I'm doing with my life will help somebody else find purpose in theirs. Now, I'm a strong, independent man that provides for his family and that continues to pursue his dreams and his goals. And I'm not gonna let anything get in the way of that. I'm gonna continue to be a success story. Clean Slate has given me a path to true freedom.
And what is eligible for the Clean Slate law? It's only a small bucket of non-violent misdemeanor charges. So misdemeanor A, drug possession charges would qualify. Only drug possession, it would not be intent to distribute, it's just drug possession. Most misdemeanors, B's, C's, and all infractions. What does not qualify would be domestic violence charges, anything violent, anything that has a victim in the case, or anything a higher level than misdemeanor A. So for example, let's say you have 4 cases, one of those has restitution, you'd be able to clear the other 3, just not that one, until that is paid. And you have to remain crime-free for a certain amount of years. For the Clean Slate law, it's between 3 and 6 years. But with that being said, we can always start working on dismissal charges or ones that have met the wait period. They don't all need to meet that wait period to start. Hopefully I made that clear. In Utah, over 500,000 people will be affected by this law. The problem with the law is there is no direct notification requirement, so the government does not have any requirements to notify anybody that they are either partially going to be cleared or fully going to be cleared. So people don't know. That is one reason why Clean Slate Utah was formed. We're a nonprofit organization, and we were formed to raise awareness around this law, get out into the community, do presentations like this, table events to let people know. When we were created in 2021. This lady right here, the white lady, she is our founder. Her name is Noella Sudbury. She is now the CEO of Rasa Legal, and that's who we use their eligibility tool to screen people when they come to our office. So our goals as Clean Slate Utah is to ensure that the law is fully implemented and that records are being cleared. So we meet with the courts, with BCI, with other stakeholders to make sure that things are running, and if they're not running correctly or being cleared, to be in those work groups to try to solve those problems, which we'll talk about in a minute. We like to share people's stories, like the video you just saw, people with records, to change the stigma around people having records. 1 in 4 people in Utah have a record, so that people just don't talk about it as much as other things in their life. It's really stigmatized, so I guarantee that if you're not somebody that has a record, you know somebody who has a record. And we want to make expungement accessible and affordable for all Utahns. So if somebody comes into our office and they're not Clean Slate eligible for the Clean Slate law, we will help them go through the court-based process. And then we have also brought on pardon support. When I took over this organization in June of 2022, I was turning people away who needed a pardon. And I thought that was ridiculous. People who need a pardon may have too many charges, or it's the type of charge they have. And so I went to my team and I'm like, let's learn how to do a pardon. So we teamed up with the Board of Pardons. We meet with them every week, and we have learned how to do pardons. We have 7 pardon applications up there now. We're waiting for a hearing, and we are helping a lot more people throughout the process. I'm ahead of myself. Here we go. Let's talk about the legislative changes that have happened recently. SB 35, this law went into effect in 2019, I believe. And this makes it so if you have a 10-year, if you've been crime-free for 10 years, you can expunge a limited amount of misdemeanor fees and fees. Before this legislation passed, you could only expunge 4. 4 was the limit. So this makes it extends the eligibility pretty significant if somebody's been crime-free for 10 years. HB 463, this will remove the barrier for people with records to go into work as mental health professionals. We know that people with records are the prime people to be working with people that are coming out of the criminal justice system or out of addiction, because we've been through them and we've learned through that. And so this just removes the barrier on records once they get out, to help them get their licensure so they can use the degree that they went to school for and work in that field. SB 163, so this was this year. This was a bill that was sponsored by Representative Stevenson and Tyler Clancy. This was our bill. So what this did was it raised the threshold for somebody to get a fee waiver. Before this law went into place, the threshold was $21,000. That's $11 an hour. Anything above that, you would not be able to get a court fee waiver, meaning you wouldn't have to pay the government fees or the filing fees to get your expungement. This raises that threshold to $38,000. It wasn't as big as a win that we wanted, but we realized this is a marathon. And so this was a small win. We'll go back again this session to try to raise that limit again to get more people the relief they need from the federal.
If you've been through it, it feels like double jeopardy when you're paying again.
Oh yeah, and again, and again, and again, yeah. And then HB 352. So I mentioned that the Clean Slate law started to be implemented in February of 2022. The court system is pretty much automatic. They've cleared over 450,000 records. Once they clear it, it goes to the Department of Public Safety or BCI. Once it gets there, they have a huge backlog. They have a 300,000 record backlog. And so this last session was paused for 18 months. So what that means is that the court will stop batching records over to BCI. They will continue to work through that backlog for the next 18 months. And then there was a legislative work group session that was created. I'm in that work group to try to find out what the issues are. Is there a tech solution? It should be automated. What are the markers that they're measuring and what we can do to get it up and running again? While this law is fast-tracked, while this law is being paused, there will be a fast-track solution. So anybody who thinks they're clean slate eligible and actively fills out a form on the court website, you'll get pushed to the very top of that 300,000 backlog, and your record will be priority and get cleared. It was really important when we were fighting to keep the clean slate laws that we had an option for somebody who is active and wants their record cleared, and it should be cleared now and they're eligible to get that done. So that's what's going on with the clean slate law. And we're really hopeful that we'll be able to find a solution for implementation. We had our first work group meeting last week that was really positive, and we'll know by November what those solutions will be. And I must say, it's pretty cool to be sitting at those tables as somebody in recovery, the head of this organization, to push myself into these meetings and sit at these tables and be a part of that solution, right? Oftentimes, people like us are not part of the solution, which I think is a mistake. I think people like us know how to help people like us, and we need to have voices at those tables. So how can you get connected with Clean Slate Utah? You can connect with us on our social media. We have all platforms: TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, I think. We have Twitter, I'm pretty sure. Support directly impacted people at Fair Chance Hiring. Anytime I get a chance to talk to any type of employer, I mention the importance of giving somebody a second chance. To give them a good job with benefits that gives them equal pay. It's really important. For me, it's something that changed my entire life when I got that job at the mayor's office and I got benefits. And I remember when I got that job at the mayor's office, I was newly pregnant and I was on the housing list, just got out of treatment, and my name came up on the housing list. I'm like, oh man, what do I do? I should take the housing. It's how I raised my other 2 adult children. It's all I've ever known. It's how my mom was always on housing. And I thought, well, do I quit the job and take the housing, or do I keep the job and let the housing go? And this job paid me more than anything that I've ever made in my entire life, and so I kept the job and I let the housing go. And because of that, because somebody gave me a chance and hired me with a record, let me prove myself and learn all these things, I'm now a homeowner. I'm not on any government benefits. My daughter has a savings college fund, which my older kids never had. So hiring somebody with a record is really important. So if any of you guys are employers or you have any sway in the companies that you guys work for, give people a second chance, hire people with records. We, like I said, we like to advocate, like to share people's stories with lawmakers and policymakers. We will always make sure that that person is comfortable and they share their story in a way that they're most comfortable with. Right? Because if we're going to bring people up to the Capitol, we're going to have them share their stories. We want to make sure that that we ask their permission and that they're comfortable with the pieces they're sharing. And you only get like 2 minutes to share that story anyway, so we really want to dial in on what's important in that story. We want to give people with records a voice. And then we are a nonprofit organization. We do not have any lawyers on staff. And so we have a small team of 4, that's myself included. There's me and 3 case managers. And so we do ask for donations all the time. Our biggest supporter right now is the Miller Family Foundation. They've given us $500,000 to get this work started and to keep it going. They really believe in second chances and giving people the chance to work. If you have a criminal record, you're not alone. This just has our contact information. I know we're probably way under time, but hopefully there's tons of questions. Are we gonna be sending these slides out to the participants?
I need to ask that question, so I hope so.
Okay.
If you're willing to do that.
Oh, yeah, so this is a video media link page. We're in the media a lot. We did a expungement clinic on Tuesday in honor of Juneteenth. We teamed up with the NAACP. We had it at the state bar office, the SJ Quinney Law School, and volunteer lawyers and volunteers. We had over 80 people come into that clinic this Tuesday that were eligible, that started the process of expungement. What we do at Clean Slate that's really important is that I fundraise to help people with the government fees associated with expungement. So let me break that down to you a little bit. To apply for expungement, it's a total of $215, and that's per case. If you have 3, 4, 5, 10 cases, that adds up really quickly. So I think it's really important that we fundraise to help people pay the government fees associated with expungement so they can get to the end zone and they can get a better job. And so what that looks like for us, if you think you're eligible, you'll go to our website, cleanslateutah.org, you fill out an intake form. Once we receive that intake form, we will schedule a Zoom or a phone call with you if you don't have Zoom or internet access. We'll look at your record together, tell you what's eligible, what's not, and talk about the next steps. Even if you don't know if you're going to be eligible, I would encourage you to come meet with us anyways, because knowledge is power. You can walk in there thinking you're not eligible, which happens very often, and then you walk out knowing that you are either partially eligible or fully eligible.
We did that at my residential treatment center. We put everyone in the van, brought them down for the Juneteenth.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm.
Did they do their application? Did they get started?
There were none of them that were eligible yet, but now they know what they have to do.
Yeah. There are a lot of them probably on probation still in open cases.
Oh.
Yeah. But if they have their power with that knowledge of how long they need to wait, I mean, it's a good word, right? And if you know, like, hey, I only need to wait one more year and 10 of these will be eligible because they're dismissed cases, then you can start on it. I know when I did my expungement, I did it in 2 separate buckets because I was still in a waiting period for some of them. So I did one expungement that cleared some, and then I had to wait a year. By the time I was done with that, it was time for me to do it again to get all of it cleared.
What really surprised me when I went through doing mine was the difference in support at the different courts and the different filing fees. So I did mine long before this happened. So when I had my certificate of eligibility for PCI, you have to serve that at each of the individual courts. And some of them had like a $12 fee and some of them like $250 fee.
I'm glad you brought that up. This is a good topic. So at Clean Slate Utah, we help people self-navigate the process so that you don't have to hire an attorney. They'll save you thousands of dollars in attorney fees. So we will sit down with you. We will show you how to do the paperwork yourself. It's really simple.
I know not everyone can do it that way, but I consulted with an attorney and he said, don't retain me. Go to this state webpage, give you step by step.
Yeah. So we actually have a clinic at USARA every Thursday. We're at USARA's location in Salt Lake, where anybody can walk in with their paperwork. We'll sit down with them. We'll show them how it's on it.
What time Thursday?
We're there every Thursday from 9:30 to 4:30.
Oh, so all day.
All day long.
Great,
Yep.
great.
USARA is very generous. They offer us that space for free. We have donuts. We also have a partnership with the Department of Public Safety. So if somebody does qualify for expungement, we can fingerprint them there at that clinic instead of sending them to a police station or sending them to BCI to be fingerprinted by a police officer. I know a lot of people that come into our clinics, that's one of the reasons why they do come in is because they don't want to get fingerprinted by a police officer. There's a lot of trauma around people's records and they just don't feel comfortable. Or I was fingerprinted once and I ended up going to jail because I had a traffic warrant. So if you have a warrant, we'll tell you, we'll give you a donut, we'll give you resources and send you on your way. You know, we won't notify the Department of Public Safety. Everything that is said between us and you guys and the case manager are all confidential. We won't share information with anybody. And we most of all will never ever get you arrested. So that's a plus. You'll come into our clinic, you'll sit down with one of us, we'll show you how to do it. Once you do one, you can pretty much do all the other ones. The only, it's pretty simple. And then before you leave that clinic,
As long as you have your
as long as you have the BCI certificate, yep. Once you leave, before you leave that clinic, we will email them out with you to get them to the right court. So when you leave our clinic, That's taken care of. We're not giving you a handful of paper to go deliver yourself. We have all the contacts at every court, we have the relationships, and we will help you, we will help you email them out, include you on that email, and then help you with the follow-through until the end. With that being said, if you are on Medicaid, food stamps, housing, we'll help you get a fee waiver. If you're above that amount and you make, we cover up to 300% of federal poverty level. So that's if you make $47,000 or less, we will cover that fee for you. And so we will include that payment. We will, go ahead, Brandy.
One of your drug court graduates.
Ooh, this is why you're here. We also do have partnerships with other lawyers and companies throughout the state. So if you are a graduate of the drug court program, the law firm Scortis and Caston will do your expungement legal work for you for free. They did my first expungement for free. So we'll team up with them. We'll send you over to Scortis and Caston. They'll do the legal work, and if there's fees that need to be paid, please let me pay those fees for you.
It's not only for drug court, but the other specialty courts.
It's specialty
Mental
court.
health. All
Specialty courts
and
program,
mental
yeah.
health also.
Yep, all the specialty court programs. And we send quite a few people over there because it's, even though you can do the paperwork by yourself, it's a lot easier and less stressful for you if you have a lawyer to work with, right? Our services, if you can't afford a lawyer, we can show you how to do it. And so,
Or like in my case, you end up filing the wrong
right,
paperwork.
to the wrong court.
No, it was to the right court. I didn't have someone in the clerk's office who knew which one to give me of the petition, so she gave me the wrong one. And I came back 3 months later to check on it, I'm like, oh, you did the wrong one, this is what you need.
Yeah. We also team up with Utah Legal Services, so if you're low income or you get any of those government benefits, we'll refer you over to Utah Legal Services. They are also a free attorney that will do the paperwork for you. They also have some funding to help with your fees. So anybody who comes to us, we'll assess you and see where you might fit best to get the free legal work. And if there is no free lawyer to send you to, then we'll sit down with you and help you out. So, this year alone, we have cleared 611 records so far. So to put that in perspective, last year our total was 471. This year is 611. So these are people who are self-navigating the process, sitting down with us, and getting to the end zone, which is super important. We are now tracking the data of what that looks like on how their life is changing. We've only been around for 2 years, so it takes some time to get through the expungement process. It's about 6 months to a year process to get from beginning to end. And so now we're able to collect the data that we need to show that expungement's working, people's lives are changing, and hopefully more people will want to donate money to us when they see our outcomes, right? Do you guys have questions?
In regards to like the fines or restitution, does that count, does it still count when they've been written off to the state debt collection?
It does, yep, it does. So when somebody applies for expungement, they're gonna check the Office of the state debt collection. They're also gonna check the court docket to see if the case is closed. And if you do owe restitution, that will be there. However, there is a law this next legislative session that's trying to challenge that. So in Pennsylvania, they have cleared it to where if you owe fines, fees, or restitution, if it's not a barrier anymore. Colorado's clean slate laws now have felonies in theirs. And so it's just about getting those baby steps and going back.
So getting a job in as a peer support or something like that, you have to pay your fines and your fees anyways.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, so I got a job at Davis Behavioral Help, but because I had open cases, they wanted the end result of the docket and it had to be closed. So just for information.
There are times that they'll close your case and they'll send it over to the Office of State Debt Collection. So your court case will be closed, but it'll still stop you from getting an expungement because the restitution is still.
So my cases were showing closed, but also that I owed an amount but closed, and I had to go back in and pay all that, and I was out of work for like a month because of that. Which is my own fault because, I was using for that many years, but it was kind of a pain in the butt to go back through. But once I had all of those paid off and the letters saying they were closed, they then let me come back, and now it's just going to be that process because BCI is who I'm waiting for then on my background, right?
So the first step to apply for expungement is to fill out an application through BCI,
Okay,
and then that takes about 2 to 3 months.
okay,
Once we get that letter, it will either be a denial letter if you have too many charges, or it'll be, you'll have eligibility and they'll give you the certificate.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
We can help pay for those as well.
Perfect, thank
yeah.
you.
When does the time down start, like, for the wait? Like, is it after you get off probation for the charges, or is it?
This is a good question. So for the clean slate law, it's the date of adjudication, which means, I just learned this word, so you know, which means the date you were charged, okay? So that's for the clean slate law. For petition-based expungement, it's gonna be the date you were on probation or parole. That starts your wait period. So it can be significant between years, depending on what term it is. We do have a table upstairs where we have cards and flyers if you need that information as well.
And for the Thursday clinic,
Cheyenne, what are you doing?
I'm messing with your stuff, Brett. For the
I'm
Thursday
challenging
clinic,
you.
you said we gotta bring our charges, is that like from the BCI charges?
No, so for the Thursday clinic, the only thing you will need is your ID. We will screen you there. We use a tool called the Rasa Legal. They have created an eligibility tool that's powered by court data. So everything that's in the court exchange system is in this tool. We use that to screen people. And so all you need is your ID. We can sit down and screen you. If you're eligible, we'll do the application right there.
Will the training, tell you how long it's been, or like what day?
Yeah, I wish I had an example of the Rasa tool. The good thing about the Rasa tool is that once they pull up your record, you'll be able to click on each and every single charge. It'll tell you everything you need to know about it. It'll tell you the date it was closed. It'll tell you if you're eligible, and if you're not eligible, it has a remind me button that will email you when you are eligible, and it'll also tell you you have 18 more months to wait or 1 year.
I have mine right
Do you
here.
have yours?
Yeah. Just download it.
This is Cameron. Cameron, can I share a little bit about you?
Go ahead.
You too, Brandy. So Cameron, we're helping Cameron and Brandy both with their expungement and pardon processes. So Brandy was a drug court graduate. We have referred her over to Caston and Scortis and Caston. They have finished her expungement, so now we'll start on that work. Same thing with Cameron. So we're in the process of filling his pardon packet. And I think we're just in a waiting period, a few more months before we get
Till
to
December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then see right here, as I log in, it tells me exactly what I have. My record. Everything about it.
Do you mind passing your phone around?
So if you're a drug court graduate, let's say I graduated from like family recovery court in Beaver County, what information do you need, or will it show that on my record?
It will show if we look at each and every docket, but we really rely on you guys to tell us that you're a drug court graduate. We just need to know you're a graduate. And then we can refer you, help you fill out the application. Once you get your service, we'll connect you with the lawyer at that point, and then they'll take.
So when you go there, she can
Perfect,
tell
I
you
love
sign
that.
up.
Thank you.
It's a
Already
great
logged in. This
service.
is the first
Yeah, I
one.
love
My
that.
first
But then she brings
expungement,
up
I had 10 things I had expunged.
Purchase.
And so-
All this stuff.
And I was new in
Bring up
recovery,
everything.
they were just starting expungement days, expungement really
Traffic
wasn't a big
violation,
piece.
everything.
There wasn't an organization to sit down and show us how to do it, they did mine for free. I mean, I had to pay the government fees.
Yeah.
Which I couldn't afford.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford those government fees, I just rebuilt my life from homelessness, got into my own apartment, just barely had a new baby, I didn't have savings. I was working in the mayor's office and they did a fundraiser for me, and they paid for my expenses.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cause I couldn't afford it. But I'm working at a government job, making decent money, and I still can't afford the expungement fees. And so that's why it's so important for me to fundraise, because most people don't get the opportunity like that.
And all because you got a second chance
Yeah.
from an employer, and that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And then that employer paid for my expungement. And then that employer officiated my son's wedding like 2 years ago.
I love that.
And
And even if you don't qualify for
Yeah.
expungement, you can qualify for reduction, and you guys help do that as well.
Created a username with that.
Brandy?
I just want to say that one thing to keep in mind, don't freak out if this happens to you, but even with the Rasa tool or your computer's documents, we did find old charges that were not on there, but were on my BCI.
Yeah. So it is powered by court data. So the courts is not perfect, and sometimes their charges don't show up, or they're really old and they weren't digitized. And so the court isn't pulling that. So there are quite a few cases when we do the criminal history that other charges pull up, and then we just have to pivot and figure that out.
Certain courts, like my Davis County didn't show up on anything that I knew was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certain courts that are problematic. And when you're at the table speaking with the legislature and all that, I would really appreciate it if you can frame this as a double jeopardy concern. It really is. I paid the same amount for my expungement that I actually paid in fines for my charges.
Yeah, yeah. So our bill this year was to try to wipe away all those fees.
Right, right.
Representative Dunnigan 2 years ago did have a bill that wiped away all the fees except for a $65 fee. That was great, but when we tried to
I
extend
can
it,
justify a
Yeah.
$65 PCI
Yeah.
administrative fee. That I totally can.
yeah. Yeah, so we're fighting. We're gonna continue to bring some legislation each year to get wins, whether they're big or small, it's a win, right? It's a
Let them know what
step in the
you're
right
hearing
direction.
from this. It's a double jeopardy issue. We're being charged twice for the same thing.
Yeah. Is there any questions online?
Right now.
Okay.
But I'll remind
Is there anything else you guys want me to talk about? Or do you guys want to get out of here? I mean, I'll talk. I'll sit up here and talk and talk and talk.
This is a good presentation that get the breakout of exactly what is eligible on a clean slate.
Yeah.
Because I've had felons ask me about it and I just don't.
Yeah,
I
felons do not
know what the
qualify
court
for a clean slate.
petition process is for felonies if you haven't had associated charges for the requisite time, whether it's D or C.
And I'll tell you that most people that come in, they have some charges that are clean slate eligible and then some that are not. It's very rare that
Knowing
somebody's
that,
whole entire record is clean slate eligible.
So what I'm getting from this is all B and C misdemeanors and some E's, as long as it's possession.
The only class A that qualifies as possession, some Bs and Cs, as long as it's not domestic violence,
Right, right.
it's not violent charges and no victim in the case.
So there's the DV exception on the B's and C's.
And the reason that is because DVs can be enhanceable. DUIs don't qualify either because they're enhanceable as well. And anything that has to notify a victim, because it's supposed to be an automated process. And under law, it's very important that they notify victims that are a victim in a case to see if they object to an expungement.
Yeah.
That's why those types of records are not included in the clean slate law.
That helps when I'm working with clients who have heard a lot about it and don't really know what's going on.
They can always just come be screened and we can tell them too.
Yeah, that's why we took my old house.
But the disqualifiers are probation, parole, open cases.
Yeah.
So those are the main disqualifiers. Any other questions? Maybe you guys will be first in line for the snack up there.
It's lunch, not.
Oh, lunch. Do we know what's for lunch?
Last year they had sandwiches.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good.
Well, thank you guys so much. You can always go to cleanslateutah.org. My email address is destiny@cleanslateutah.org. Our intake form on the website is right below the very first video, which is another powerful video. I just didn't show it here. Reach out to us, send people to us, let us know how we can help. But keep in mind, we have 4 people. So we're small, but we're mighty. We're getting through it, but we have got a week to 2 week wait period before we reach back out to this. That's all I got.
Thank you.